in the small village of Okoroba, where even the poorest of families counted their blessings, there lived a man named Tamuno whose poverty was so profound that other villagers used his family's name as a measure of destitution. In the heart of a small village, where dirt paths wound between modest huts and the air carried whispers of both hope and despair, lived a man named Tamuno. His calloused hands and weathered face told the story of countless days spent tilling other people's fields, his own dreams buried as deep as the seeds he planted. Yet despite his poverty, Tamuno carried himself with quiet dignity, a trait inherited from his father, Grandpa Alaska. Grandpa Alaska was a marvel to behold, nearly 90 years old, yet still striding to his farm each morning atop his prized possession, an ancient bicycle that creaked with every pedal. His perpetual smile and unwavering optimism stood in stark contrast to their circumstances. "Son," he would often say to Tamuno, his eyes twinkling with wisdom, "a pure conscience and hard work will make you shine one day beside him." Grandma Alaska worked silently, her gentle presence a constant reminder of the love that sustained their humble household. Life had not been kind to Tamuno. At 30, when other men his age had families of their own, he found himself alone, rejected by every woman in the village. "Can you even afford bride price?" they would taunt, their laughter cutting deeper than any farm tool could. But fate had different plans, leading him to Tenna, a soul who understood the weight of solitude all too well. Tenna was an orphan whose entire world revolved around an old sewing machine, a precious inheritance from her late mother. Her nimble fingers worked magic on torn clothes, turning frayed edges into neat seams, much like how she would soon mend the frayed edges of Tamuno's lonely existence. Their first meeting was unremarkable to observers, but to them it was like finding water in a desert. In their shared poverty, they found abundance of spirit. Where others saw two hopeless cases, they saw in each other the promise of companionship. Their wedding was simple, so simple that it became fodder for village gossip. Poverty plus poverty equals object poverty, the villagers sneered, but their words bounced off the protective shield of Tamuno and Tenna's contentment. Little did anyone know that their story would soon intersect with Mr. Tony, a wise goldsmith from the city. When fortune smiled upon Tamuno in the form of a discovery that would change their lives forever, it was Mr. Tony's honest heart and steady guidance that would help transform their luck into lasting prosperity. But that moment of transformation was still to come. For now, they were simply Tamuno and Tenna, two souls who had found in each other's eyes a reflection of hope that no amount of poverty could dim. Their love story wasn't written in grand gestures or elaborate promises, but in shared meals of simple food, in walking together to the farm each morning, and in the quiet understanding that they were no longer alone in their struggle against life's hardships. In the remote village of Okoroba, where dusty paths naked between modest mud houses and tall palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze, poverty wasn't just a word, it was a shadow that followed some families like a faithful companion. Among these families, the household of Tamuno stood out, not for their achievements, but for their extraordinary lack of means. They were so poor that even the poor in the village would shake their heads in sympathy when passing by their weathered dwelling. Each morning, as the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Tamuno would emerge from his family's crumbling house, a structure that seemed to stand more through prayer than architectural integrity. The only possession of note in their household was an old bicycle, his father's pride and joy, its rusty frame and squeaking wheels a testament to decades of faithful service. This bicycle had become something of a village joke, a symbol of their persistent poverty that followed Tamuno like a persistent echo. In Okoroba, status was everything, and Tamuno's position on the social ladder couldn't have been lower. He spent his days clearing other people's farms, his hands calloused from wielding machete and hoes, his back bent under the scorching sun. The meager earnings barely kept food on their table, let alone allowed for any dreams of improvement. The other villagers would often whisper among themselves, their words carrying on the wind, "That's Tamuno's boy, the one who couldn't even afford to continue school." The social isolation cut deeper than the physical hardship. When Tamuno reached marriageable age, his attempts at courtship became the village's favorite source of entertainment. Young women would gather at the village square, their laughter mixing with the evening air as they recounted his latest proposal. Can you imagine, they would say, their voices dripping with derision? "He asked for my hand in marriage. What next? Will he sell his father's ancient bicycle for the bride price? Each rejection added another layer to his isolation, until Tamuno learned to keep to himself, finding solace in the rhythm of farm work and the quiet understanding of his parents. The village hadn't always been so cruel. There was a time when community meant supporting one another through hardship, but somewhere along the way, mockery had replaced mercy, and judgment had overshadowed compassion. In this same village lived Tenna, an orphan whose situation mirrored Tamuno's own isolation. Her world revolved around an old sewing machine inherited from her mother, its steady clicking a lonely soundtrack to her days. The villagers largely ignored her, except when they needed their clothes mended. She existed on the periphery of village life, watching celebrations and gatherings from afar, much like Tamuno did. Together, they formed a picture of Okoroba's forgotten ones, those who lived in the shadows of the village's social life, getting by on nothing but hope and hard work, their dreams as modest as their means, but their spirits somehow unbroken by the weight of their circumstances. It was on a quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon painting the sky in shades of amber, that Tamuno first encountered Tenna. He was returning from another exhausting day of farm clearing, his shoulders heavy with fatigue, when he spotted her sitting alone outside her small hut, bent over her mother's old sewing machine. Something about her solitary figure called to his own lonely heart. Their first conversation flowed as naturally as the village stream. There were no pretenses between them. How could there be, when both knew intimately the sting of village scorn? Tenna's fingers never stopped moving across the fabric she was mending as she spoke of her parents' passing, of the solitude that followed, and of the small kindnesses of an elderly couple who had become her surrogate family. Tamuno found himself sharing his own story of struggle, of rejection, of dreams deferred but not abandoned. In the weeks that followed, their friendship blossomed in the spaces between their daily labors. Tamuno would finish his farm work early to walk past Tenna's hut, sometimes bringing her wild fruits he'd found while clearing land. She, in turn, would mend his torn work clothes, her skilled hands adding subtle reinforcements to help them last longer. Their poverty meant they had little to share except understanding, but in that they found abundance. When Tamuno asked Tenna to marry him, there was no grand gesture, no elaborate proposal, just two hearts recognizing their match. "I have no relatives to give you away," Tenna had said softly, her eyes downcast. "But I have those who have been like parents to me." It was enough for Tamuno, whose own parents welcomed the news with quiet joy. Their wedding was as modest as their means allowed. No elaborate celebrations, no long procession of gifts, no feast that would be talked about for years to come. Instead, they had a simple traditional ceremony, witnessed by Tamuno's parents and the elderly couple who stood in for Tenna's family. The village women watched from a distance, their whispers sharp with mockery. "Look at them, poverty marrying poverty. What kind of life can they build together?" But in their small hut, Tamuno and Tenna created a heaven of mutual support. They worked side by side, Tamuno in the fields, Tenna at her sewing machine, their meager earnings pooled together to keep hunger at bay. When village children would point and laugh at their modest home, they would hold each other closer. When others spoke of their marriage as a joke, they found strength in their shared understanding. Each evening they would sit together outside their hut, watching the same sunset that had witnessed their first meeting. In these quiet moments, their poverty seemed to matter less. They had found in each other what the village could never give them: acceptance, understanding, and a love that grew stronger in the face of hardship. That fateful morning began like any other in Tamuno's life. The sun beat down mercilessly as he worked his small plot of land, his hands moving mechanically through the familiar motions of weeding and clearing. His thoughts wandered to the evening meal he would share with Tenna, wondering if they would have enough to fill their bellies. Then his host struck something different, a stubborn tree root that refused to yield to his usual efforts. Wiping sweat from his brow, Tamuno studied the gnarled root system that seemed to dive deep into the earth. Something inside him, perhaps the same spirit that had kept him going through years of hardship, whispered to keep digging. Hour after hour, he dug around the root, his muscles burning with effort. The sun tracked across the sky, but still he persisted. Just as his strength was about to give out, a glint caught his eye, something shining beneath the dirt, nestled among the roots. His heart racing, Tamuno carefully excavated around the object, eventually revealing a large crystalline stone, unlike anything he'd ever seen. With trembling hands, he wrapped the stone in his work cloth and tucked it into his tool bag. The walk home seemed endless as the weight of his discovery pressed against his side. He bypassed his own hut, heading straight for his parents' home, his feet carrying him swiftly despite his exhaustion. "Papa," he called out, voice quavering with excitement. Grandpa Alaska took one look at the stone and his weathered face transformed. "Son," he whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "This is a diamond." The old man's hands shook as he held the stone up to the fading light. "We must keep this secret. Tell no one but your wife. Tomorrow we visit my friend Tony in the city." That night, none of them slept. Grandpa Alaska made a hushed phone call to his old friend Mr. Tony, speaking in careful, measured words. At dawn, father and son boarded a rickety bus to the city, the precious stone secure in Grandpa's inner pocket. Mr. Tony's small jewelry shop was tucked away in a busy street. The moment he saw the diamond, he let out a gasp that seemed to echo off the walls. "This is exceptional," he breathed, examining it under his jeweler's loupe. "I know exactly who will want to buy this." The meeting with the wealthy businessman happened that very afternoon. In his plush office with its leather chairs and wooden panels, Tamuno felt out of place in his patched clothes. But when the businessman named his price, all discomfort vanished. The figure had more zeros than Tamuno had ever seen in his life. As they left the city that evening, father and son clutched a bank check that would transform their lives forever. The same bus that had brought them as poor farmers now carried them back as wealthy men. Grandpa Alaska reached over and squeezed his son's hand. "Remember this moment," he said softly. "God's time is always perfect. Money, they say, changes everything. For Tamuno and Tena, it changed their address first. Within weeks of the diamond sale, they found themselves standing before a beautiful two-story house in the city, its pristine walls and manicured garden, a far cry from their humble village hut. Tena's eyes filled with tears as she walked through rooms larger than their entire former home, her fingers trailing along smooth walls that didn't crumble at her touch. But the couple knew that true wealth lay not in possessions but in possibilities. For Tena, this meant finally pursuing her passion for fashion. The old sewing machine that had sustained her through poverty now sat in a place of honor in their new home as she enrolled in the city's most prestigious fashion school. Her natural talent, honed by years of making do with little, blossomed under proper training. Within 18 months, she graduated at the top of her class, her designs combining traditional patterns with modern sophistication. Tena's fashion house, opened in the heart of the city, quickly became known for its unique designs. The same hands that once mended torn clothes for coppers now created gorgeous gowns for the city's elite. Young apprentices flocked to learn from her, and she taught them not just about fashion, but about perseverance and dignity in the face of hardship. Meanwhile, Tamuno fulfilled his own dream of entering the furniture business. Years of working with wood on the farm had given him an eye for quality and craftsmanship. His showroom displayed pieces that married functionality with beauty, each item carefully selected to reflect his vision of affordable luxury. But their hearts remained tied to their village roots. When Tamuno announced his plans to build his parents a new home in Okoroba, Tena fully supported the decision. They hired the best architects and builders, and over 3 months, a magnificent mansion rose where their old family house had stood. The village buzzed with excitement and speculation as trucks of building materials rolled in day after day. The day of their parents' homecoming became an unofficial village festival. As a gleaming black SUV rolled down the dusty village road, people emerged from their houses to stare. Grandpa Alaska, now dressed in fine clothes but wearing the same warm smile, stepped out first, helping Grandma Alaska down with gentle courtesy. The crowd gasped at the transformation of the couple they had known only in poverty. The women who had once mocked Tamuno's marriage proposals now watched with bitter regret as he helped Tena from the car, her designer dress and quiet confidence, a far cry from the lonely orphan they had ignored. God can truly lift anyone, they whispered among themselves, their former derision turned to admiration. Yet success hadn't hardened Tamuno and Tena's hearts. They set up a generous monthly allowance for their parents and hired help to care for them. Every week brought fresh supplies and provisions, ensuring the elderly couple would never know want again. The old bicycle was kept, not out of necessity, but as a cherished reminder of the path they had traveled. The years that followed were golden ones for Grandpa and Grandma Alaska. Their new mansion, with its cool marble floors and spacious verandas, became a place where they could finally rest their weathered bodies in comfort. No longer did Grandpa need to cycle to the farm each morning. Instead, he spent his days tending to a small garden of flowers and herbs, his face glowing with contentment as he watched butterflies dance among his blooms. Each week brought new gifts from the city, fresh fruits, medical supplies, and endless little luxuries that made their twilight years sweet. The elderly couple maintained their simple ways, but now their simplicity was a choice rather than a necessity. Grandma Alaska still insisted on cooking her special soups in traditional pots, though now she did so in a modern kitchen with help always at hand. During these 5 precious years, the mansion became the heart of family gatherings. Every Christmas, the quiet village air would fill with the sound of children's laughter as Tamuno and Tena brought their growing family home. The couple had made it a tradition to spend the entire holiday season in Okoroba, transforming the mansion into a festival of lights and celebration. Village children would gather at the gates, knowing they would receive gifts and sweets, while their parents were welcomed inside for feasts that brought the community together. But it wasn't just during festivals that the family maintained their connection. Tamuno made sure to visit at least once a month, often bringing city doctors to check on his parents' health. Tena would spend hours sitting with Grandma Alaska, learning traditional recipes and stories that she promised to pass down to their children. The old bicycle, now displayed proudly in a specially built glass case in the mansion's entrance, served as a constant reminder of their humble beginnings. When Grandpa and Grandma Alaska passed away peacefully within months of each other, they did so having lived to see their son become not just wealthy but wise and generous. Their funeral services brought the entire village together, with even those who had once mocked the family coming to pay their respects and acknowledge the dignity with which the elderly couple had faced both poverty and prosperity. After their passing, Tamuno kept his promise to maintain the village connection. The mansion remained immaculately maintained by a trusted staff, its gardens tended, its rooms always ready to welcome family. During each visit, Tamuno would spend time sitting in his father's garden, sometimes holding the key to the old bicycle's display case, remembering the lessons of perseverance and hope that had guided him through his darkest days. The village itself had changed, becoming a testament to how fortune could smile upon the least expected. The mansion stood not as a symbol of wealth, but as a monument to the power of family love, hard work, and the unexpected ways in which life could transform sorrow into joy. Years after Tamuno's story began circulating through the villages of the region, elders would gather young people to share its wisdom. They would start by pointing to the old tree stump, still visible in the field where the diamond was found, its roots now a testament to how fortune can lie hidden beneath life's greatest struggles. Remember Tamuno, they would say, their voices carrying the weight of experience. The same man you mock today might be the one whose help you seek tomorrow. They would tell of how the village women who once laughed at his marriage proposals later came to stand in line outside Tena's fashion house, hoping their daughters might apprentice under her skilled hands. Life had taught them the harsh lesson of hasty judgment. As they watched the very man they had written off transform into one of the region's most respected businessmen. The story served as a powerful reminder of life's unpredictable nature. One morning, Tamuno had walked to his farm as a poor man, carrying only his old tools and heavy heart. By sunset, his future had been rewritten by a discovery that lay waiting beneath a stubborn tree root. The villagers would marvel at how a single day could bridge the gulf between poverty and prosperity, how divine grace could manifest in the most unexpected moments. Yet what truly set Tamuno's tale apart was not the discovery of the diamond, but the way he and Tena carried their newfound wealth. They wore their success like a well-fitted garment, neither too loose to be careless, nor too tight to be constraining. In the city, where they could have easily lost themselves in luxury, they remained grounded in the values that had sustained them through their hardest days. Their humility shone brighter than any diamond, as they never forgot the taste of poverty or the sting of rejection. Most profound was how they honored their family bonds. The mansion they built for Grandpapa and Grandma Alaska wasn't just a display of wealth, but a testament to their gratitude. They understood that success meant little if it didn't serve to lift up those who had supported them through their struggles. Even after their parents' passing, their commitment to maintaining the village home spoke volumes about their understanding that true wealth lay in preserving one's roots. The story became a living parable, teaching future generations that life's blessings often come disguised as challenges. Just as Tamuno had to dig deep to discover his diamond, sometimes one's greatest fortune lay beneath the surface of their greatest struggles. His journey from poverty to prosperity became more than a tale of luck. It was a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of keeping one's dignity through hardship, and the understanding that every human being carried within them the potential for extraordinary change.